Good morning. Welcome to the March meeting of the Knoxville Historic Zoning Commission. This meeting is broadcast on several TV stations, so please remember to speak clearly and directly into the microphones. Dallas, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, good morning. For the record, the Knox County Historic Zoning Commission is not meeting this month. They have no business. So for the Knoxville Historic Zoning Commission, Commissioner Blackburn,
Present.
Commissioner Eason,
Here.
Commissioner Bradley,
Present.
Commissioner Fox is excused, Commissioner Hearns,
Here.
Commissioner Mitchell is excused, Commissioner Randazzo,
Here.
Commissioner Tillman,
Here.
Commissioner Webster.
Here.
That's 7 present, sir.
Thank you, Dallas. At this time, we'll have swearing in of the speakers. If you wish to speak on an item, please stand now and answer with "I do" to the following affirmation. I solemnly affirm that the testimony I'm about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. We ask that all speakers please limit their presentation to 5 minutes. We also ask that speakers please give their name and address before speaking. Please sign in at the desk by legibly printing your name and address. Appeals of any Historic Zoning Commission decisions may be made to Chancery Court within 60 days of the date of this meeting. At this time, we'll have the approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor? Aye? All right. We've got some technical difficulties this morning, so bear with us. We're gonna work around it the best we can. I think you have a motion?
Level ones first.
You want to do that? Okay. All right. Lindsay, you want to go with staff reports, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to also give some context to everyone on Zoom. The screens in the small assembly room aren't working due to some repairs that PBA did overnight. So we're gonna move through these things. I would say to the folks in the audience, if you guys want to look at visuals, you have the agenda packets that I sent you guys on your phones, if that's available. I had a very nice presentation for everybody to look at, but our staff is bringing down additional packets, like hard packets for y'all, the commissioners, to look at. So, okay. But the people on Zoom can see the screen, so that's good for them. Okay, so the level 1 COA is issued since the last meeting. At 1215 Luttrell Street, the applicant will be removing the wood floor decking on the porch, repairing rotted porch framing, installing new wood tongue and groove porch flooring and fascia boards, and if necessary due to rot, they will be removing and replacing a wood railing to match the specs submitted by the applicant, which meet the design guidelines. At 215 East Oklahoma Avenue, another porch repair project, the applicant is replacing front porch beams with new structural beams, removing and replacing the porch ceiling, and installing trim around that beam. At 1420 Fremont Place, the applicant is repairing chimneys, which the existing chimneys are already covered in a mortar which can't be removed. So the applicant is proposing to clad it in additional mortar that matches to keep those chimneys stabilized and prevent further decline of the brick. It's compatible with the existing mortar on there. At Westwood, the individual landmark on Kingston Pike, the applicants are repairing the windows. So some of them will be removed and reglazed, some will remain in place, repairing the exterior jamb and trims, removing and storing the exterior shutters for eventual repair, and they have a pretty extensive window survey and scopes of work dated to that. This is Westwood, the home of Knox Heritage. So, and that is it.
Great. Thanks, Lindsay. All right. Commissioner Tillman, did you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to modify the order of our certificate of appropriateness to move 1000 Thompson Place to the top of the agenda while we wait on printed packets with, so we can better evaluate the other items.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. That will be our agenda. So we will start with 1000 Thompson Place in Old North Knox. It is case 3B24-HZ. Lindsay?
Okay, so this is a new secondary structure case. It's a storage shed measuring 8 by 12. It's proposed to be set 5 feet from the rear and interior side property lines. The shed is a custom-built product. It has a 10/12 side gable roof, an exterior of wood lap siding with a 4.5-inch exposure, and a parge-coated slab foundation. It features overhanging eaves and a decorative wooden window on one side elevation and paired plank doors with cross bracing. So the structure will be placed to the rear corner of the property. It meets the setbacks for accessory structures. It'll be minimally visible from the street due to the fence. Placement of it is appropriate. They propose windows, including wood lap siding and trim, asphalt shingle roofing, and wood windows that meet the design guidelines. And the shed will also use elements that meet that list of options within the guidelines. So the staff recommendation is to approve 3B24HC as submitted.
Thank you. Is the applicant present or on Zoom?
Yeah, I'm on Zoom.
Hi, would you state your name and address, please?
Yes, Rebecca McCurdy, 1000 Thompson Place.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to Lindsay's comments?
I do not.
All right, then is the neighborhood representative available?
He's on Zoom.
Okay.
Yes, Sean Bolin, 115 East Scott Avenue. This could not be more clear cut. It's a wonderful application. It meets all the guidelines. So the neighborhood recommends approval. And thank you to the McCurdy's for their effort.
All right, thank you, Sean. All right, we'll open the floor up to the board for questions or comments, if any.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion properly seconded. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. All right,
Thank you.
so are we gonna go to Knollwood, or are we just gonna stay down the list here?
So for the way you restructured, the way that you restructured it was just to put Thompson Place first.
All right, then we'll go with Knollwood, individual H landmark. This is 150 Major Reynolds Place. It's case 3D24-HZ.
Okay. So I will summarize what's in the staff report, and hopefully y'all have stuff to follow along in terms of the visuals. So this is an overall exterior rehab project that was approved in June 2022. The COA is in the agenda packet. And this application includes some revisions to the previously approved design. So one element here is the front door replacement. The door is from approximately the 1919 period of the house. They are proposing to remove the door, the side lights, and the transom and install a new wood door. The new door has a slightly larger 2/3 light with leaded glass and 2 small vertical panels beneath, and they want to install new side lights. They would be increased in length to reflect a provided historic photo from an earlier period of the house. The project also includes work on the east elevation door. So if you recall from June 2022, they proposed a new secondary door was approved in place of a window opening. It was a single light door flanked by side lights, and there was a transom to match the existing front door. The new application proposes to recess that door slightly and surround it with a scaled down version of the molding on the front door. The side lights and the transom in that revision will reflect the front door as well. Then the dormer work. So the HCC approved 2 new dormers on the front roof slope in June 2022. The application requests to reduce them in size and proportion. And so they'll be approximately 12 inches smaller in height and width than initially proposed. And they'll be clad in lap siding instead of the previously proposed slate shingles. So in the application packet, there are some photos of these dormers as framed out currently. It's a little bit later on, it's after the door images. So just to go through some of the staff findings, Knollwood's an individual H overlay. It was constructed around 1851. There's an addition dating to the late 1880s on the porte cochere. There's a 2-story rear addition dating to the early 1900s, and then the front porch was constructed around 1919. The design guidelines that are specific to this property note that these have dated the appearance of Knollwood to some 40 years after its original construction, and they should be preserved as contributing to the significance of the building. The front door, transom, and side lights date to that 1919 period of restoration, and they contribute to the overall significance of the building. The standards, the Secretary of the Interior standards for preservation note that changes to a property that have acquired historic significance in their own right should be retained and preserved. Regarding the east elevation door, the side door, that was already approved by the HCC. The new application is responding to some building codes questions and recessing the door slightly, and they'll use a basic surround similar to the front door. It is appropriate within the design guidelines. Regarding the dormers, they were proposed at the June 2022 meeting. The staff recommendation was to deny the front dormers as adding new details on a primary roof slope with no precedent detracted from the form of the building. After extensive discussion, the commission approved the front dormers. They were originally proposed to match the original side dormers in size and design. They've already been partially framed out. As contractors in the field noted, they couldn't expand due to the existing roof framing. As it would be inappropriate to reduce the side dormers that are original to match the smaller ones on the front, there's not much solution beyond removing the front dormers, which would contradict the existing approval. And cladding them in siding to match the house instead of slate shingles is appropriate. So the staff recommendation here, staff recommends approval of the east elevation door modifications and after the fact approval of the front dormer modifications, and staff recommends denial of the front door replacement and preservation of the existing door transom and side lights.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present or on Zoom?
I also think that Jordan's on Zoom, and I think he had something to say before I speak.
Okay.
If not, I can go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
My name's Megan Dixon. I am the owner rep for the project that's going on here. I think we understand the request denial of the replacement of the front door. I think the clarification that we were wanting to make is that we actually want to remove the leaded glass that's in he got kicked off. He wants to remove we want to remove the leaded glass from the transoms and then replace it with the matching historic glass that is being replaced into all of the windows that we are restoring to make that match. So we would be willing to restore the front door assembly, but we would like to remove the later added leaded glass. The oldest photo that I can find of it in place is from the 1950s, but I'm not exactly sure when it was added.
Okay, thank you. Is the neighborhood representative available?
There's not a neighborhood representative, so I didn't have any, and I didn't have any additional input.
Okay.
And I just clarified that the glass that Megan is referring to, that is on page, I really wish I could show you these. It's on page 9 of the agenda packet. So there's some images of the glass between page 8, 9, and 10.
Okay. All right, we'll open the floor up to the board to ask any questions or comments.
What were the conditions of the roof that required a change in the dormer size?
Absolutely. So the front porch connection and the hips of the roof closed the space to such an extent that we couldn't put the equal size dormers that are on the side to the front. So once we got to get clearance for from the hip of the roof, we had to reduce the height and the width in order for it to fit in the space on the south facing side of the roof. I will say, just to be clear, the photos that are attached in here, that is some preliminary framing, so the actual window opening will be expanded to the dimensions stated in the application, and it will look dimensionally proportionate to the side dormers in exposures and trim. All of that will look the same. It is just reduced in 12 inches in height and 12 inches in width, and also the dimension from the eave to the base of the dormer is identical on all of the dormers at 29 inches. So it's just the peak that will be reduced. on the front too. And just as a last note, currently those photos are before we've reconstructed the chimneys, and so the chimneys will be in between those. So visibly, it'll be hard to see the difference with the chimneys back in place.
And you said you wanted to replace the glass in the front door. Is there any other reason besides matching the new windows?
It is the only place that it exists, and yeah, the idea is that currently it's all newer glass, and so we're trying to have that match all the way around, and not have the leaded.
We've seen this kind of conundrum in other historic districts. I think I've talked about the Fourth and Guild District discourages the idea of continuity and matching with old and new, and that you can have an old window next to a new window. The glass won't match, and that's a part of the process. I don't know if that's appealing to you or not. I don't even know if it applies to this specific landmark, but it is a popular idea in preservation.
There are pictures historically of it without the leaded glass, and it changed slightly. The door assembly has changed slightly over time. We are happy to maintain the door assembly the way that it is. It would just be the replacement of the glass.
Give us a moment to catch up with you here, please.
Absolutely. I think Jordan is also on if y'all have questions for him as well.
I can, Commissioner Tillman asked about relevant design guidelines. So there are some guidelines that are identified specifically for Knollwood, and then they reference the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation when it discusses work on the house. So some of the relevant design guidelines regarding the glass would be distinctive materials, features, finishes, and construction techniques that characterize a property shall be preserved. Changes to a property that have acquired historic significance in their own right will be retained and preserved. And those are on page 2 of the staff report.
Just as a note, in the rehabilitation or in the restoration of all of the window sashes, the divided light is being added, and that was part of the impetus for us asking for the extended side lights. That they had a division in them in historic photos, and that was. But we are fine to leave those as is if we. But at this point, we're just asking to have the leaded glass replaced with that historic replica glass that's era appropriate.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
Can I add something? I'll just say, as a architectural historian, part of understanding a building and how it changes over time is seeing all the different things, particularly in a property like this where its current state is so far from what it was originally. That being said, I think what we were trying to get at in previous comments was that, and from the staff recommendation, is that things that have been there since a certain period become historic. We understand whether it was in 1950 or before that, Secretary of Interior standards through the Park Service for historic properties would stress that those are significant in their own right at this point. We understand it's not original to what was there at a previous time period, but at this point, they have become a part of the house. And I think that, Lindsay, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's where your recommendation was coming from.
And again, I would just say that we had talked about replacing the actual door assembly to extend, to make it look like the historic photos. That we are not asking for any longer because of the staff recommendation saying we want to honor the history of the door assembly and in the appearance. The transoms and the side light are slightly differentiated in size. Happy to keep that. I think, and those, I believe, date back further, and the leaded glass was added at some point after the fact of the door assembly. So again, really wanting to stick with honoring the current door assembly and restoring it to the best of our abilities, just with the replacement of the glass.
Anyone else? If not, do we have a motion?
I can make a motion to approve per staff recommendation, including after-the-fact approval of the front door modifications and denial of the front door window replacement. I don't know if I need to modify that because the front door is being retained and it's just the glass that we're specifying.
If you'd like to specify whether you're recommending approval of the glass replacement or denial.
Denial.
Okay. Is that your motion?
Yes.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. All right, our next case is in North Knox, Old North Knox. It's at 213 Leonard Place. It's case 3A24HZ.
Okay. So this is after the fact review of some design changes from the initial approval. So you can see the images provided by the applicant as you move through. It's after the staff report. So one of the elements here is the siding. So the installed siding is a faux grain finished fiber cement lap product with a wide exposure pattern. The approved siding was a smooth finish fiber cement lap siding with a 4 to 5 inch exposure pattern. The front door varies from the Historic Zoning Commission's approval. And I'd go back and clarify, this is a new construction house that was approved in June 2023. The front door that was installed is a 2-panel wood door with no transparency. It's flanked by side lights. The approved front door featured a quarter light door above 2 vertical panels. The applicant is also requesting some variation from the front porch designs. So they are requesting the installation of square 8x8 wood posts with trimming around the top and bottom above the brick piers. The approved columns were tapered wood posts above bricked piers. The applicant also requests that the porch foundation be clad in pressure-treated wood trimming instead of the brick foundation as depicted. Some windows, the applicant installed vinyl windows and will replace them with aluminum clad wood to reflect the initial approval. On the rear dormer, the windows were initially proposed as 3 small adjoining casement windows. The applicant is requesting to install 3 full-length operable windows in the same location. So some of the findings, this house was reviewed and approved by the HCC in June 2023, subject to 5 conditions. That COA and the approved elevation drawings are included in the application packet. So most of this work is after the fact. It has been completed on site. It was identified by field inspectors with the city. While the design guidelines for new construction in Old North discourage artificial siding, fiber cement lap siding has been approved for new construction in Old North, provided that it is installed with a smooth finish instead of faux grain and in comparable exposure patterns. Smooth finish lap siding is preferred to the faux grain because it doesn't imitate the texture of a different material, i.e. it's not wood, and then because the faux wood grain doesn't sufficiently replicate the texture of wood. Smooth finish lap siding should be installed with an exposure pattern of 4 to 5 inches based on the previous condition of approval. The front door lacks the transparency of that proposed quarter light door. Guidelines typically recommend that new entrances be compatible in size, scale, material, and character of adjacent buildings. Craftsman style doors typically have some transparency. The previously approved door or a comparable design should be selected. One condition of approval on the previous COA was that all elevations of the foundation be clad in brick. The porch foundation, along with the entire exterior foundation, should be clad in brick veneer, as depicted on the plans. The tapered wood columns on brick piers, as previously approved, meet the design guidelines. The proposed look somewhat disproportionate to the overall brick piers below. The tapered wood columns on brick piers, as previously approved, should be installed. And then on the rear elevation dormer, the proposed full-length windows are proportionate to the house and won't be visible from the right-of-way. So staff is recommending denial of the installed faux grain fiber cement lap siding, the installed door, the vinyl windows, and the proposed 8x8 square posts, and the wood-clad porch foundation. And staff recommends installation of a smooth finish fiber cement lap siding with a 4 to 5 inch exposure pattern, a door to reflect the approval, tapered wood posts to match the previous approval, and a brick-clad porch foundation. Staff recommends approval of the rear dormer window modifications.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present? Would you like to state your name and address, please?
Jose Martinez, 213 Leonard Place. Good
Thank
morning,
you.
Commissioners. The main point we're here this morning is to ask for approval of 3 out of the 5 findings, not all 5. So give me 1 second. Actually, let me sign in. Okay. So we understand the door does not have the lighting through it. We have found another door. We're asking for permission on this new door. We have the photos of that, to change that out. The main subject here is the the fiber cement lap siding. So we have wood grain. You guys are recommending smooth. We took a tour around the neighborhood, and we saw that there was another home across the street with wood grained hardy siding as well. So we didn't think much of it, and we have photos. It's just across the street. It's 226 Leonard Place, so very close by. Across the street, 3 doors over. I have the photos of that. So that's the first major one. We understand we're replacing the door. We understand we're replacing the windows as well. We have those on order, aluminum wood cladding, so that's not an issue at all. So thanks for letting us know on that. The second order is the 8x8 wooden post. I also just drove around the neighborhood for a little bit. Noticed that there's various posts of different themes, and I have photos of that to kind of show if you guys want to see it. And so even on a new construction home down the street on Leonard, there are 8x8s installed, and I'm guessing approved because the home has been sold. So it's the same concept as what we have installed. So that's just that's the second ask. And then the third ask is of the front porch full brick. We have suggested, we haven't suggested, but we have installed brick piers, and we don't have full brick around the front. We do have full brick around the back porch, but we don't have full brick around the bottom. Let me know if you need clarification on what I mean by that part. And then I have photos to present as well if you'd like that. So that's, we're just asking for approval on the new door that you guys are letting us know we should change. We are replacing the windows. We're asking for approval on the siding that we have. There's various different sidings around the neighborhood. There's vinyl with wood grain. There's hardy with wood grain. And obviously there's the traditional smooth wooden 4-inch reveal. So it's kind of various around the neighborhood, and then the final is the brick and the post. So, and then there's various posts. So that's my case.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Martinez.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Boland, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Sean Bolin, 115 East Scott Avenue. Um, the neighborhood is in agreement with staff recommendation. We are unaware of any instance where a faux grain has been approved within a historic district. Um, and we do not want to see that here, even though we can sympathize with the builder at this point in time. Likewise with the brick foundation and surround. Just on Leonard Place, we've had many discussions about brick foundations. We have to remain consistent with this. Um, Otherwise, we lose credibility. With the front door, we agree with staff. We do ask that a craftsman style house was called a craftsman for two specific or reasons. One is the craftsmanship of the home, but two, the craftsmanship of the home highlighted the materials. Um, and oak was the primary material in this area. Knotty pine would never have been used as an exposed wood in a craftsman ever. So we do ask that if the owner replaces the door, that they get a comparable material or they paint it. We can't dictate paint, but it does look off. Um, and we agree with the rear windows. It's perfectly fine to change those. Oh, I'm sorry. As far as the piers go, as far as the tapered columns versus square, it's difficult to see scale in photos when things are incomplete. Um, we did not have a strong preference whether it was tapered, which is definitely more appropriate, versus square, because it's again difficult to perceive when not all the materials are present.
Okay, is that it?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I'll open the floor to the commission for comments and questions.
Lindsay, have you been sent a door proposal, a front door proposal?
Not yet. What they have depicted as what was installed is effectively the proposal.
Okay. And this page with multicolored leaders and notes, was that prepared by you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And what is the plan with I'm not sure if it's the right word, but the stoop, the masonry that is on either side of the steps? Architects, correct me if that's the wrong term.
No, I understood that. Kind of just go away with it and keep the brick or the wood flush with the columns that we have now. Are you able to see the new construction photo that we have currently in the current state?
This
Yes,
is,
sir.
okay.
Yes.
So I can see, are you planning to have an exposed stringer on the outside?
No, sir, that's just temporary for inspectors and all that good stuff. Everybody to walk in.
Speaking of, so it was a building inspector who caught the changes?
Yes, sir. It was oh, you're looking somewhere. Yes, sir. It was the wood grain that they mentioned, that they saw. And then, I think, in the door. That were the main, and the windows, excuse me. Those are the three major.
Good job, Development Services. We appreciate y'all looking out. Usually we get stuff via neighborhood complaints.
Yeah, of course.
It's great. Do you have a continuous footing underneath the front porch?
No, sir. In the building plans, which I have, they show they are not continuous in the front porch. They are continuous in the back.
My next question, I've been trying to figure out how to frame it nicely, but it's just what happened? What prompted these changes, or?
Yes, sir. That's very understandable. I think there was just a lack of, on my part, looking at the finish where it says smooth. I mean, I didn't understand it was, because I'm used to building in the county, and so that's all I need to say, and you guys understand that. So it's, and it's not that we're doing whatever we want. It's just a little bit of less regulations, if you could say. So the wood grain is obviously the major factor in this for us, so we just missed it, honestly. I didn't think it'd be this big of a motion for the wood grain. And then also vinyl, but we have that covered for the windows.
And the porch foundation, what happened there?
We had, well, the foundation plans are piers, so we didn't do the continuous. Obviously, if it was continuous, we know we need to put either block right continuous around it, inside of the piers, and then cover it with brick.
So walk me back through this, please, if you don't mind. There are 5 issues here.
There are 5 major issues, yes, sir.
All right, and you accept how many of the 5?
Well, I mean, I accept whatever you guys say, but there's 2 major that we are accepting as we'd like to, we're changing.
The
So that's
windows.
The windows that are vinyl, we're replacing them, they're on order, to aluminum wood cladding. And then the second is the door. Obviously, it doesn't have a opening window, kind of like in this photo. This is the door we're asking for approval on, and we'll just stain it or paint it. We'll actually paint it according to what it was mentioned to go with the home, so.
Okay, so then the lap siding, the 8x8 square posts, and the wood clad
Yes, sir.
porch. Okay,
Yes, sir. Those are the
Alright.
ones that we're asking for approval on your guys' behalf.
good, thank you. Just wanted to clarify.
I have a question about the siding. Some hardy board is smooth and then on one side and textured on the other.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know what you have and can you just flip it over? Easier said than done.
No,
I
of
know.
course. I mean, it's a good suggestion. I think on the back side of that, it's kind of like it has a scrape from the factory, so it's not truly smooth. So, and then, I mean, we could get, maybe
It's a
we could
different
get
brand, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if it could work or not, but ideally, I'm asking for the approval of that, but it could work. I mean, maybe. It's just, I mean, Hardy. I don't know if you guys ever touched it, but once you pull it off, it's probably gonna break off.
Some of it is smooth on the backside. Others, you can see the webbing coming through.
Yeah.
It's unlikely you would be able to salvage
Somewhat, yes, sir.
25% of it by flipping it, I would think.
Yes, sir.
And I'm guessing by semi-transparent with the post, you're talking about a stain or a paint?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, if that's what it takes to, well, we're obviously gonna stain it. I mean, it's exposed wood. You stain, you don't paint. You can solid stain it, which is the same thing as staining. But yes, we would definitely paint it to match the rest of the homes. Or there's a new construction home with stained 8x8, we can stain that as well. So whatever you guys, whatever route you guys want to take on that, we can do that.
I'm honestly inclined to enforce the guidelines, smooth siding, full brick facing, including stoops.
So you,
As far as walking around the neighborhood, I'm pretty sure where Leonard and Overton is, that block, that's where the boundary of the overlay is. It may seem arbitrary because you can look in any direction and see historic non-conforming things, but we are still bound by the guidelines for the houses within the overlay.
yes, sir, I understand. I think some of the homes have been maybe like remodeled without permission. And, they have vinyl, half of them have vinyl, half of them have the older wood. So I do understand that. And then there's some of the house across the street has the wood hardy. So I do understand we're trying to keep everything knit and to guidelines. It did say, I mean, the 7 exposure is correct, right? I mean, that could pass because obviously there's other homes with 9 and 10 inch exposure from historic, right? That's a question.
You're asking about other homes?
Yes, I'm
Lap
asking,
exposure?
yes, 7 to 8 inch, correct?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
We're trying to enforce the previous COA more.
Okay,
I think that's what the issue is. I think the issue is, what we're being asked to do is, does this conform to what we previously approved or not? And if so, then we base it on that, not a review of everything. You would need to come back with what those new things are that you're proposing. Is that correct, Lindsay?
No, what they're proposing is what they've installed.
Oh, what's
So
already been?
what
Yes,
he's
ma'am.
proposing is what is the siding that has been installed on the building.
The entire building.
So you
fully
guys
painted.
you guys are tasked with issuing an after-the-fact approval or denying what
Okay.
was completed and requesting that the applicants adhere to the previous one.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Did you have the elevations when you were building this?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I just find the omission of the brick especially difficult to have done accidentally.
We have a guest, the designer, wanting to speak. Is that all right? Is that allowed? Okay, okay.
Hi, everyone. Eric Forstall, Ball Design Services. I did the original plans, got them through you guys, got them approved. I wasn't aware that some of these things got missed during construction, especially with the finishes with the front door. I think we can resolve the front door with, as Jose recommended, with this replacement with painting, and we can add to the door to make it pretty close to what would be considered within the craftsman style in the area. I think there's something that me and Lindsay can work with to make that taken care of. As far as the siding, unfortunately, that is an issue of concern, and I do understand it. The extended lap siding exposure of 7.5 inches from the 3 to 4, I think was 3 to 4 inches that was approved. As far as the wood grain, I think we can probably get that around. Jose can correct me or not if we can make some adjustments to reduce the exposure of the existing siding. Okay. So, I mean, there might be some easier solutions that we can come up with in order to try to resolve that. We would be open to some type of recommendations that you guys have on that, rather than ripping off everything that's existing, that's already been installed, and try to salvage as much as we can. So I would suggest that we get some ideas and maybe some opinions or some ideas of what you guys would consider to approve with what's already been done. Those are my two big things that I'm gonna come in and jump in on.
Please.
Eric Forstall, I live in 1920 Greenland Way over in Knoxville, West Knox.
All right, thank you. I don't think that we're going to go down the path of redesigning the project for you.
I'd appreciate that.
As Commissioner Tillman said, our responsibility is to enforce the guidelines. So, Commissioners, do you have any other questions or comments?
I have one more question for the neighborhood representative, Sean. Can you just repeat what you said the neighborhood's opinion was on the tapered wood post? Did you say that you were okay with what has been installed?
I'm saying we are not opposed to a square wood post. The tapered would be more appropriate. Square could be, however, we would really need to see the dimensions before we could make that decision. Right now, we have cinder block without brick facing. You know, looking at the scale at this point in time, it's impossible. But we are not opposed to square. We are opposed, unfortunately and sympathetically, with the textured faux wood grain siding. We simply can't accept forgiveness after the fact. We are opposed to the door. We are grateful that the applicant is replacing the windows, and we do want the brick cladding on the foundation. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Sean, Travis Tillman here. Does the neighbor have any preference with whether the 8x8 column is the exposed framing, or I would think it would typically be wrapped in this situation? If you have a 8x8 pressure treated post, it's gonna be twisting, have checks, it's not gonna paint or stain well.
Correct. We would want it wrapped. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Tillman.
Excuse me. Can I ask, wrapped in what?
Half-inch wood material. That, I assume that's a pressure-treated post?
Yes, sir.
If it hasn't already, as it ages, it's going to twist. The checks are going to open up. It's going to look like rough framing, and that's not, it doesn't match historical. You can add the top and bottom trim pieces where it meets the brick and the top part of the porch, but you'll still see that it looks like rough framing.
Yes, sir.
I also wanted to ask, was there a plan to have at the top of the columns, it almost looks like a concrete plinth? Was it originally supposed to be brick? If you see the top of the columns here, it's got what you call this? It doesn't have the brick texture in the drawings.
Give me 1 second, please.
What do you call that? Yeah, the base of the column. It looks like it would be a concrete piece.
My understanding from the previous review was that that would be wood being the base of the column.
If the architect wanted to clarify, be helpful.
Do you mind just flipping the photo over so I can see what you're looking at for?
Base of the wood column, between the brick, there's another element. I'm, again, not an architect. I'm not the best with these terms, but
I think if you were purchasing columns to put there, that would all come together as one piece. Correct me if I'm wrong from other projects. That would all come as one piece. So that's just a part of that component. But if you're putting a post in there, you would have to build those out so
Yes,
that
ma'am.
there's a difference at the top and bottom.
I see what you're saying. I see. Just kind of like it's like a stone to kind of keep the water from dripping off and going at a slope.
are you proposing just to alter that to brick, like in this
Yes, sir.
rendering here?
Yes, sir. Yes, exactly. Like in the photo below, they would be brick. That was our intention.
Sean, does the neighborhood have any thoughts on this item?
That would be preferable, having a wood, continuous horizontal surface would just fail within years. So yes, brick is preferred.
Any other comments, commission?
So we're good with the continuous. We'll put a footer inside of the piers and add brick to that on the front foundation,
Pardon?
just like what Sean mentioned.
I think we have to make a motion
Yes.
based on what we've seen, not,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, we have to vote and everything.
Would you like to
No,
make
of
that
course,
motion?
of course. I'm just
Yeah.
kind of stating the
I
fact.
can make a motion, and those would be, if it passes, those are the notes you want to take. All right, I'll make a motion, per staff recommendation, denial of installed faux grain fiber cement lap siding, the installed door, vinyl windows, and of the 8x8 square post instead of tapered, really word for the staff recommendation.
Very good. We have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, aye?
Commissioner Tillman, could you clarify the rear dormer window modification? Could you read the whole staff recommendation?
Sure, sorry.
That'd be great.
Recommends installation of smooth finished fiber cement lap siding with a 4 to 5 inch exposure pattern, a door to reflect the approval under COA 6D23HZ, tapered wood post to match previous approval, and brick-clad porch foundation to reflect house foundation's brick foundation, including the stoops, staff, and approval of the rear dormer modification.
Thank you. Commissioner Bradley, does your second stand?
Yes.
All right. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Martinez. All right. Our next case is still in Old North Knox. It's at 217 East Scott Avenue. It's case 3E24HZ.
So this is a major exterior rehabilitation and a new secondary structure. So this is on the sheet on your application packet that says existing conditions. There is a selective demolition on the existing house that relates to removing that upper level addition, removing the front porch enclosure, repair to the front porch foundation, or reconstruction using as much existing brick as possible, repair to the front stairs, removing a shed roof addition on the left side of the rear elevation, and removing some of the non-historic side porches, also removing another section of that rear elevation. There's extensive restoration scopes that are broken down, and in this instance, it's good that everybody has these in front of you so you can kind of read through those, but I'll go through and kind of summarize. So the roof line, the applicant is proposing to reconstruct a centered two-story front gable massing on the facade based on the footprint of the Sanborn map. Reconstructing an original cross gable roof line and having a gable that projects towards the rear that exists will remain. The applicant is proposing a new wraparound front porch based on the footprint on the Sanborn map. The porch is proposed at 2 stories. The materials are broken down in those elevation drawings, and I'll go through those in the findings. On the rear elevation, the non-historic shed roof addition will be removed. The applicants are proposing a new shed roof 2-story screened-in back porch. The materials include a new wood lap siding and corner boards and trim to match the original exposure visible on sections of the existing house. At least 8 of the existing original windows are proposed to be restored. Other non-historic windows will be replaced with new wood double-hung windows. There's some additional scopes like new gutters, a new louvered vent on the rear elevation gable. And then there's a secondary structure included in this proposal as well. It's a garage and accessory dwelling unit. It will be located on the rear right corner of the property. It's in the location of the historic garage based on the Sanborn map. It's 1.5 stories tall with a front gable roof dormer projecting towards the west and a shed dormer projecting towards the east. The materials broken down here are different, and I'll run through those in the findings. So just a reminder of some of these elements. So this house is a contributing resource to the Old North overlay. The original form of the house is very obscured by multiple additions to the front side and rear elevations. The city of Knoxville proposed to demolish the house in 2022, which was ultimately denied by the HCC. Most of the commissioners had the opportunity to tour this house, actually, so I think we're well familiar. The house was sold to the current owners, who are proposing this major exterior rehab that retains as much of the original historic fabric as possible and as is visible. There are no historic photographs of the house that have been located. The application is drawing from this physical evidence and the Sanborn fire insurance map. Overall, the building footprint as proposed will reflect that depicted on the fire insurance map. Reconstructing that roof line as proposed is appropriate. It draws from physical evidence on the existing house and that footprint. The roof line will eliminate some non-historic additions and create a more consistent cross-gable roof line with a pitch matching what is visible from the original. There is a front porch proposed that reflects the footprint as visible on the Sanborn map. Both stories of the porch incorporate design elements recommended within the guidelines. They have proposed a composite tongue and groove porch flooring that has been approved by the HCC as a replacement material in Old North. The commission should discuss that second story porch element. There's not historic evidence of the second story porch on the house, and then the level of decoration and detail. The proposed materials overall are appropriate. They draw from limited sections of visible wood siding and meet the guidelines. The application also includes these proposed shingles in the front gable, which are not visible from existing evidence, so the commission should discuss that. Related to the secondary structure, overall it meets the design guidelines for new accessory structures, including placement and materials for new buildings. They have a smooth finished fiber cement lap siding proposed and new fiberglass windows. Those have been approved for secondary structures in Old North. They have some solar panels that are proposed as well, and those are on a less visible roof slope. So the staff recommendation here is first for the commission to discuss the proposed secondary story porch, the level of detail, and the proposed shingle on the front gable. Pending approval of or any additional conditions related to those elements, staff recommends approval of 3E24HZ, subject to the following conditions: that the final window selections be provided to staff for approval, and the final site plan, including the ADU and a future new driveway, should meet the city zoning code and engineering standards, and minor site plan revisions could be approved by staff.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant present?
Hi,
Good morning.
good morning. I'm Lauren Bush, 206 Chamberlain Boulevard, and I'm the architect representing the Hattar family for this project. And we're really excited to see this house turn around. So as Lindsay mentioned, this project is twofold. We'll be renovating the main structure as well as adding a ADU garage in the back part of the property. So we haven't been able to find any pictures of the home. We've been working off the Sanborn map to try and piece together what was. There have been like two probably big renovations, maybe more over time, an older renovation off of the back of the property and newer renovations off of the front. And I think we can see where those different renovations occurred with the type of windows that are there. The windows in the back with the 3 muntins were part of an old renovation, we think, and then in the front with the sliding glass doors for windows, part of the newer renovation. So we're proposing to pull all of that off, go back to what we think is the original footprint. We found some thicker walls through the main structure to find where we think that original footprint was, as well as evidence of a front gable coming off of the front of the home on the upper level. So we're proposing to go back to that large wraparound porch, front gable. The client has been inspired by many of the upper level porches in the neighborhood along Scott and are hoping to incorporate that. We don't have evidence of what was here, and we'll hope to learn more as we pull off some of these newer additions on the project. And as far as the ADU goes, we are proposing alternative materials on that project, but it's a little bit more straightforward. Lap siding, fiberglass clad wood windows so that we're able to paint it to match the main structure. So yeah, if you have any questions.
Great. Thank you,
Yeah,
Lauren.
Thank you.
Sean, would you like to weigh in for the neighborhood, please?
Yes, 115 East Scott Avenue. Before I speak for the neighborhood, I do want to say a few things. First of all, as someone who has restored these historic homes firsthand, I have to say I always applaud a restoration. And occasionally I am impressed by a restoration, but very, very rarely have I been blown away by a project. And these owners have blown me away. So fantastic work. So let me further add, I want to thank personally the Historic Zoning Commission that denied the demolition, realizing that there was still hope for this house. I want to also thank the city for delaying demolition and obviously extend a great appreciation and thank you to the current owners and architect. So speaking for the neighborhood at this point in time, this is a fantastic design. I, along with several commissioners, have gone through the basement. We've gone through the attic. This roof line, this configuration is historically accurate. So we greatly appreciate that. We do have a couple modifications or stays that we want to add. First, the gables on the upper porch doors seem rather small and don't necessarily fit with the house. So we would like those to be reconfigured and come back to the commission. That's not going to delay the project at all whatsoever. Um, let's see, the front, uh, the windows that face the street in the foundation under the front porch, those would never have been there. So we request that those be bricked up. Um, let's see, as far as the design of the columns, many times during um, demolition or removal of materials, you will find those original columns. So we want the columns and the upper porch newel post to be approved by staff based on findings. We do not oppose what is drawn here, but if we find historical evidence that is contrary to this, we want the applicants be able to duplicate that. Um, And the last thing is that it is very difficult for us to approve the solar panels on the garage when we can't actually see how visible it is. Currently, solar panels are very obvious and inappropriate for historic structures. We think that the solar panels would be approved with the placing, but we do need to see the ADU framed in before we can make that decision. And we think that's a fair request, and we can make our opinions known very quickly once it is framed in. So with that said, does anyone have any questions for me?
Yes, I think you outlined 4 different items. I didn't catch the third one. The one, you said the windows that face the street should be bricked up. What was the item after that one?
Okay, the porch gables be reworked, that the windows under the porch facing the street be replaced with brick, that the designs of the porch columns be approved by staff based on historical evidence, though we do not oppose what's been proposed here, and that the solar panels, we pause on approving the solar panels until we can see exactly where the ADU is being placed.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Sean.
And to be clear, Sean, those front basement windows currently exist, right? But the neighborhood doesn't want them to continue to exist?
They currently exist, and it's my supposition that they were digging out the basement to put another apartment down there. If you went into the basement, there were all these troughs dug out. Those do not look appropriate, but they currently exist.
Lauren, any response to those comments?
Absolutely with the porch columns. We haven't found any evidence thus far of that still being present, but of course, if we find evidence of that, we would lean into the details of the existing home. As far as the windows go on the front porch, we're trying to do our due diligence and go back with a wood window, something a little bit higher off the ground instead of the aluminum window that's in there currently. My client would like to have light in the basement since those windows are existing there and maintain that and trying to dress that up and make that look more respectable in the neighborhood. So our preference would be to maintain those windows. We talked about, you mentioned gable size, is that right?
Porch columns.
Oh, the
There's-
gables over the second story door, the access onto the porch.
Onto the porch. We can absolutely study that. That's something that we've studied a bit actually in our office and looked at different proportions on that window and have actually or on that dormer and are happy to look at that further with staff. We've found that a smaller proportion actually feels better, which I was kind of surprised to lean into. But we are happy to consider that.
And then the solar panels?
Thank you. I don't believe the solar panels will be very visible from the street. The garage is back in the right part of the property towards the alley. There's a large tree in the backyard as well. I do not think it will be very visible. We've tried to do our due diligence to put that on the accessory structure and not on the main structure to be able to have that component as part of this project. So we hope to have that approved.
So can you just clarify, I wish you could see the site plan, but so these are on the west elevation, so those will be facing the left side, left interior side property line?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they will,
Okay,
to be able to get some use out of them.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this time I'll open the floor to the commission for comments, questions.
May I make one more comment, please?
Yes?
So as far as the gables go for the upper porch, I do want to say we would prefer that come before the commission, not a staff recommendation. And for the upper porch, though there is no documentation of an upper porch being there, the neighborhood believes that on Scott Avenue, historically, the houses on the north side of the hill were very elaborate. The neighborhood was called Mountain View Addition when it was established, and those would absolutely give mountain views, so we can support, even without evidence, the upper porch. But we do want the gables above the doors to come before staff.
Okay, thank you. Elizabeth?
I see a note on the elevation that calls for an upper window in the gable, but I don't see it in the actual pictured elevation.
We moved it.
Okay,
Sorry.
so it's not there.
It's not there.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
Sorry.
We moved it.
I just have a question because I'm curious. I was surprised that you guys are proposing wood siding instead of the cement fiberboard that's been approved in the district. Can you explain your thinking?
Well, speaking with staff, there is still some original wood on the building. So I think the recommendation was that we should continue with wood on the main structure. There's a combination of vinyl wood, original wood, it's a whole mishmash. But due to that, that inclusion, that was my understanding, is that we should be continuing with wood to match that.
I had a few questions and comments about the foundation windows. As I understand it, it is not within our authority to make you brick up an existing opening, but it looks like you're proposing a change to the existing windows, which I think would be prudent. Are you planning on finishing the basement, or is it going to be vented?
I think we will have some elements in the basement, but it won't be a fully finished basement, so,
Because it's got the tongue and groove above it,
yes.
correct? Okay, so keeping,
But, yeah.
yeah, conditioning it would be pretty tough. Do you know the condition of that front porch? I know the left side was.
It's rough right now. We have had approval to do some structural work on the interior of the basement currently. So we're starting to get columns and everything shored up the piers below. But that part of the building right now is tough to walk on. You don't really want to walk on it. So we'll have to do quite a bit of foundation repair there at the front to re-brick everything up and provide that structure there for that to be sufficient.
I confess, I had a similar basement window for my house, and when I touched it, it fell out.
Oh, really?
It was large like this. It went up to the mud sill. It was oversized when it was put in. It was a structural issue from the beginning, I assume. As far as getting light into the basement, I've been in this basement, and that was probably one of the coolest parts, where all that ivy is grown and the light shows in. It's pretty cool. I would recommend that in your foundation repair, my guess is there is no footing, and in most places, the brick is going to be one brick thick. And as you're excavating and moving material in and out of that foundation, because I know there's just piers that are completely undermined, that you would reduce these foundation windows in size to make them look more like a foundation vent, even if they actually are a glass window behind, if they're not used to vent. They could be symmetrical on either side. They could be on the side faces of the house and still achieve that same thing while still not looking like an apartment in the basement, which I think, as Sean was alluding to, that's probably what was happening here.
Okay.
But again, if you're wanting to keep the existing window as it is, we can't stop you. Okay. But if you're going to make changes, I don't think this, like two next to each other, is historically appropriate.
Okay.
But there's ways to do what you're wanting to do.
Okay.
I had a question about the rafter tails and porch overhang.
Uh-huh.
So it's you'll have a tongue and groove on the top floor. And then it will overhang a little bit over a flashing where a metal roof starts. Is that right?
Yes.
So you'll have,
There will be there'll be an overhang that protects the edge of the roof there. And then on top of that, we would be able to work within the roof, structurally, the area of the porch so that it looks pretty seamless, around the edge.
are you looking for standing seam here or
For what? I'm sorry.
this metal overhang?
Yes.
Okay. And it'll have a drip edge, I assume. Will it have a gutter?
Yes.
Okay. I assume you'll have gutters around the whole
We'll have
house?
we'll have round gutters around the whole house. We
Okay.
didn't get those modeled in this.
That's fine. That's
yeah.
an easy one. And then would it be a metal soffit as well? This just seems like this is going to be a hard detail to build.
Yes.
And draw, actually. A metal soffit as well, and then exposed rafter tails?
I have not detailed that part of it yet, but could provide detail as to what that material will be, for sure.
I don't think it would necessarily be an issue, but open to other
Do-
thoughts.
yeah.
I don't think we've had a metal roof turn into a metal soffit return in the
Yeah.
neighborhood, but
And I mean, and that could be asphalt shingles on that roof as well, and that would be no problem.
I'm just trying to figure out where the material changes and what that looks like. Because
Yeah.
that's gonna be a focal point of the house as it projects out with those,
Absolutely.
I assume, painted rafter tails.
Yes.
And then wood siding around those? Okay. All right, I'll stop rambling for a minute and let other commissioners chime in.
There was a note in the staff recommendation about the proposed shingles on the front gable. Is that the wood shingles and hexagonal pattern?
Yes, exactly, and that was just a suggestion to incorporate into the discussion, if y'all are comfortable with that.
Okay. Is there evidence that that was there historically, or is it just to add interest? Or-
We have no evidence. Our client walked through the neighborhood and has taken pictures of many of the old homes around Old North Knoxville and drew a lot of inspiration from that and the details we've incorporated on the front of the home. So I think there's a lot of examples of that within the neighborhood. But we don't have pictures or anything to draw from there.
I'm inclined to approve the porch, even as a creative portion. Lindsay, would you be comfortable approving this, a metal roofing detail showing how this projecting, if that's too much for staff, let me know.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve per staff recommendation with the, let's see, subject to the conditions that final window selections be provided to staff, that metal roofing detail and material be approved by staff, final site plan including ADU and new driveway should meet city zoning code and city engineering standards. Minor revisions may be approved by staff.
Okay, got a motion? I'll second the motion. Any further discussion?
Oh, I did. I'd like to amend my motion. I did want to, I don't know, I left it open-ended on the foundation window. I don't think the foundation window proposed is historically appropriate.
Okay.
I would request that part be denied if I can make a motion to amend my motion.
As long as the second still stands after making that change?
It does.
Forward. Okay.
And that's that the specific foundation window proposed, not approved, but obviously existing can remain.
Okay.
All right.
Can
Call-
I ask a quick question?
Sure.
But I'm looking at the photographs. This is just a question for why I made that motion. I see that those two existing windows are on that side of the steps, and I'm not understanding why you would not stick with the windows in the location where they currently are.
The proposed windows are different in size.
They're slightly smaller.
Which I think is appropriate. I'm personally okay with both windows being in that location, so.
Okay. All right, we'll call the vote then. All those in favor? Aye? Any opposed? All right. Was that?
It's a no.
Okay.
Sounds like we had 2 no votes, Elizabeth and Liz. Or sorry, Lynn, I apologize. My
Do we
brain's
want to
not-
do a roll call vote? Or you're good?
I've got it if you're okay with that.
Okay, all right. So the motion passes, correct? All right.
All right.
Thank you very
you.
much. All right.
Thanks.
At this time, the meeting is adjourned, and we're going to go into a workshop session.